without wasting much time, I'm opening the floor for the next 15 minutes for questions, generally questions for any of the speakers. We can take it now, or if it's for Ali, if it's for Leah, or for Amarachi, the floor is open now. Thank you very much, everybody, for staying with us. My question for you, Mr. Ali.
Yes.
We know we all strive to work, enhance inclusion and diversity, but sometimes we are in an environment where we find hostility for some reason or the other. We try to build that allyship, but either our colleagues or our superiors are somehow very hostile to us and resisting that allyship. Even when we offer it, we are amenable to it. We want to do that, but their attitudes towards us repeatedly shows that they are quite hostile. How do we navigate around that problem?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, achieving, inclusion in the workplace, it's not a very easy thing. It's not a straightforward thing. But it is very important to make the case, that it's not only important for the employees, but it makes benefit. It makes business sense. It kind of improves the environment people are working in, but also it also improves the business. But at the same time, you find some organization, for example, if you're talking about the public sector organization, they have many duties to achieve equality in their organizations. So one of the things that people can do is to try to make sure that schemes like like, for example, equality networks. You find, for example, in some organizations, people are lobbying to make sure that they have Black networks, disability networks, LGBTQ plus network, women. Even I know an organization that have women networks, to talk about issues like menopause and other things. So you have those kind of networks, but those are networks that didn't just come about because someone decided that they have to be there. People have to work hard to lobby for those things to happen. So people have to learn to sell that idea to the leadership, because the leadership in some organization, they are open to those ideas, whether they take them on board, but that's depending how you sell those ideas. And also, it's very important also to talk to this about within your your teams. Your team, surely the people you work closely together could support you in that, and perhaps help you lobby for that kind of scheme to be part in the organization. But it is very important to sell it in a way that it makes sense to the business. It also improves the working environment, and obviously it kind of make the organization a very better place to work. It's working. So they have many benefits to tell your leaders, and how you can implement the scheme and what are the benefits.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that answer. Does any other person have question for Mr. Ali or any of the speakers?
Yeah, there was a question in the chat that Dr. Amarachi made earlier for Leah, and it was, what happens when we second guess ourselves? How do we navigate this as a woman? I don't know if Leah wants to elaborate more about it.
Yeah. I think second guessing yourself is normal for every human being. It doesn't have to be a woman. I think that in the decisions that we make, what I have learned through my journey is that in second guessing those decisions, I wasn't afraid to fail. So it's okay to second guess, and the only way that you actually know whether you're on the right path or not is if you actually take that decision. So I think being second guessing ourselves, we shouldn't I don't think we should put pressure on ourselves and say we need to eliminate it. I think it's part of the process, because if we were taking the first thought that came into my mind, at least the way I'm wired, I'd be in a very sad place at this point in time. So I think let's look at second guessing as a weapon rather than something that stagnates us, and we use it and take the first step, and then whatever comes out of there, let's not be afraid of failing, was what I would say. There's a help.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. It does. I also have, if nobody is speaking now, I also have a question for you, Leah, if you don't mind. Yeah, you said breaking barriers can only be achieved by breaking stereotypes. Now, I know that in this environment, we are in any other environment, for that matter, we have stereotypes. My experience here is that people have labeled Blacks, they are so loud, they are so, some kind of words and all that. There are some are not just intelligent because they have money, they just come here to spend their money. They are not intelligent, things like that. So to break those barriers, do we need to not be who we are? Even with our self-mastering, do we need to try to change to be somebody else?
No, I think that's why the title for me is understanding who you are in order for you to redefine where you are. So it's not about changing the landscape in order to make it the way we are, but it's to make the landscape understand how we are. So in my book, Lids Cracking the Glass Ceiling, I talk about breaking that stereotype, but I give the story of it is in a church setting that happened. The first thing that I need to say, though, is that if you want to stand up and break a stereotype, remember that it will cost you. And it will cost us because we are leaders, and I think any other way, you need to know that you'll have to pay the price if nobody's ever gone before you. So that's one question. So I don't think we lose ourselves. I think in breaking stereotypes is standing up and saying, like I think Ali was saying, you need to be able to stand up and say, this is not okay. This is not okay. And by you just making that statement, remember that it will either, if you're in a condition where people are allies, then they'll want to learn in order for them to change. But if they're resistant, then it will cost you. But I think that we should not be afraid to break those stereotypes, because either way, it could be in a fertile ground or unfertile ground. But I would not subscribe for us changing ourselves in order to fit in, because fitting in doesn't help anybody. It just perpetuates that stereotype.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you very much. That's understandable. Thanks a lot. Any other question for any of our speakers, please?
Lina again. Dr. Ali was mentioning the advantages of having a diverse environment at the workplace and the reasons why we can back up these statements, saying like it's good for the NGO and so on, but I would like him to elaborate more to which extent, saying just like it's justice, it's like, why do we have to make reasons about injustice in just saying and stating that we need diverse workplaces, because it's how this should be, because nobody should be taken out because of the gender identity or because of the race or so on. So I would like to ask him if he thinks, like in some extent, giving all of the reasons, because injustice can be can generate wealth, but this is not the reason why we are going to justify, you know what I mean? So I don't know if I'm being clear in the question, Dr. Ali. Yes, I'm just saying like the reasons why we should have diverse workplaces, they should be just because it's justice. I mean, because sometimes we give all of these reasons, like it's good for the NGOs, it's gonna bring more perspectives and so on. And of course it does, we know that it does, but don't you think like the main reason around that should be that we should achieve justice in any or in each levels of our societies to create a better world and a better place to live and navigate to everybody, more than the advantages that brings to the NGO?
It is, the reality is discrimination happens in the workplace, and it's not something that is happened last year or the year before. It happens every year, and every week it happens, and there are a lot of it is very well it's a very well documented field. There are a lot of research done around that. So discrimination, unfortunately, is happening. Despite the best intention of many people, these things are still happening. So we're talking about it and trying to do something about it, to try to bring awareness, raise awareness of these issues to other intentioned people, because these things can wreck other people's lives, and all the opportunities that are out there, unfortunately, cannot be, not everybody can have access to those opportunities because of the kind of, discrimination or bigoted mindset that some people have in certain organizations. People, particularly people in leadership, can really wreck your aspiration, can wreck your life because of that way of thinking. And it's not, it would be nice, if the world was just a place where everybody can navigate their lives without having to face those things. But unfortunately, those things are there, So how do we navigate that? First of all, we raise awareness of those things. We don't just sit down and write, we have to talk about this because they are really happening, and not only it happening, but the result is that it affects many people's lives, every single day, and it is there, when you want to see it, it is there. When you open the TV, you hear that some people don't talk about it directly, but they allude to it. Someone in the supermarket can allude to it, to that kind of mindset. In the workplace, you have this new word called microaggression. People will not come directly and tell you, in your face. They will try to hint it, to allude to it without you, thinking that you don't understand that. So unfortunately, the world is not as it should be, but the way it is, it is unfortunately, there are some things there are things that are happening that don't make our world a perfect world. So hopefully, with all the intentioned people, we can make a very a huge difference in our world, and obviously improve many people's lives. So that's one of the reasons we talk about it. Obviously, it makes business sense, but it doesn't necessarily mean that many people will buy it, because they have this mind. They see the person in front of them differently. They don't see them as a human. They attach something, a label on that person. So therefore, instead of looking at the human being, they see a label, and that obviously that's when it need to change. I hope that makes sense or answered your question.
Right. Thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of this beautiful session. I think this is the best session I'll be in this in this one. I really appreciate meeting so much great people here. Leah, Ali, Amarachi, thank you so much for your time and for your insightful discussions here.